Oh, okay, no. But it didn't seem like I was happy. I didn't write. I said to my sister, why because Christmas is about children. Let's write a child. So I thought, oh, sorry.
No worries.
Sit away from them. I'm in the naughty corner.
No, you're not. Absolutely not.
I am.
You're not. Hello, my name is Tracy Monique, and I'm just going to take up a little bit of your time. I'm a speaker and a poet. I have a book that's going to come out at the end of this year, and I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time to talk about creativity and the human cognition and how they go hand in hand. So I was going to end with the poem, but I guess I'm going to start with one so I can kind of get the crowd rolling. So I've been doing poetry and writing for about 25 years, right? Yeah.
How old are you?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I'm 34.
Okay.
I know, I got good genes, y'all. I got good genes. So I've been writing since I was a kid. So when I was growing up, I grew up with a mother. She was a drug addict, right? So the side effects of her being a drug addict was she did not have time for me or my sister. So because she didn't have time for us, we got passed around from family member to family member so that they could take care of us. And for me, my first memories were of being 4 years old and being with someone that wasn't my mother and just trying to figure out where I fit into that world. So as I grew up, I had to figure out how to use those obstacles in my life to create a different outlet for myself. And the thing that spoke to me cognitively was reading and writing. So essentially, that was my escapism. So instead of kind of being sad and miserable, I would read a book about a family that I didn't have, and that would equate to me feeling and thinking something. So as I got older, it's really emotional, I'm sorry. So as I got older, I used that outlet to kind of define who I was as a person. And I used it to kind of make me a better person. And so once you figure out what your art is, it doesn't have to be writing. It can be listening to music. It could be writing. It can be creating photography. It can be painting. When you find out what that thing is for you, it defines you. It defines your life, and it can make you a better person. So I'm going to just do a poem, and then I'm going to kind of go into the human cognition and how it works back together. And then at the end, I'm going to re-say that poem, and hopefully you can hear it in a different format. So it's called The Opposite of Free. I get mad at me sometimes. I'm not the theme I want to be. I'm not pretty or perfect or skinny or new. I am old, I am worn, I am broken. I think about the life I want to share, of the impact I want to leave, of the places I dreamed, of the person I want to be, but I don't. I stay still. I stay silent. I am broke. I am broken. I get angry sometimes that people can't see the version of myself that I always longed to be, the warrior, the fighter, the goddess, the do, the version of myself that I can make anew, but I laugh it off, and I smile her away. I sink deep into my subconscious, and I keep her dream at bay. I live inside myself and dream of what could be. If only I were brave, I could remake my reality. If only I understood I was everything. Not just mad, not just angry, not just broken. So that took a lot of years to just be able to put that into words. And using your creativity can unlock those aspects of yourself. I first had to understand what that creative outlet was for myself, and I had to understand how I could use that creative outlet to change my perspective and thought process on life. Like I said, I've always been drawn to creativity, the different versions of creativity that you can use and the person that it can make you. I remember the first time that a piece of art actually spoke to me. It was right after my divorce in 2013. I decided that I was going to stop what I was doing. I was going to go to Europe, and I was going to reinvent myself. Upon doing that, I went to Porto, Portugal. While I was there, I went to this church, and it was all gold. And it was the most amazing thing that I'd ever seen. And because I've always been drawn to culture and those different aspects of life, it just changed my entire perspective. Once you're able to visualize who you want to be, once you're able to define yourself through art, it can make you a better person. So the first thing that you have to do when you try to unlock that creativity is to find out what makes you creative. That doesn't come easy for some, it comes easy for others. For me, because I always liked to read and write, it was easy for me to say, I want to be a writer when I grow up. But for some, if you don't know that creative outlet, it could be harder for you. But once you figure that out for yourself, it can make you a better version of yourself. So this is what I want you guys to do, since you're in the room with me. Take a moment and think about a time in your life where some creative aspects changed your perspective. Would anybody like to share what that moment was? Yes.
Okay, so for me, growing up as a child, there are a lot of times you find yourself in situations you wish you could change. I have this imagination that just allows me to travel. So I find myself pretending to be who I'm not, pretending to be who I want to be. And so I would stand in front of a mirror and I would pretend, So if I was sad, I would just act and pretend to be happy. I found myself doing that as a little child, and it was that route for escaping whatever it is I was going through at that point in time. And it was from that I discovered, okay, I think I want to act. And so from there, I found myself very into acting and make-believe. And somehow I think it just sort of provides a room for escape. Exactly. From whatever it is that we sort of are going through.
Thank you for sharing. Would anybody else like to share? Sure. Yes, Brandy Benson.
A creative approach for me was writing my book that I wrote. So documenting what I was going through, that was very therapeutic for myself. I was able to reflect on what I didn't understand at the time when I was writing the journals. It was like a little documentary of me growing and changing and accepting what happened in the past and being okay with that. And that later on became a book. But that process was very therapeutic for myself, and being able to write down what I was feeling and then revisiting it and then saying that it was okay and that it's not defining me, that it's just a chapter, helped me move on with my life.
Exactly. So essentially, human cognition is simply changing your thought process to something that helps change your perspective. So art has that capability. Art isn't just a piece of portrait or a song. It's so powerful, and it can do so much more than that. If you can figure out what your pain is, you can figure out how to change that pain into something that's not tragic. You can use art to write down that thought that you had that you didn't necessarily want to continue to have, and you can change how you think about that. So instead of saying, today was the worst day of my life, it could be, today I found that it wasn't something that I wanted it to be, but tomorrow I will make it something new and different. So art has a way of changing your human cognition. It can turn something tragic and horrible into something that wasn't something that you thought it should be, but it isn't something that you can't overcome. Art has a way of breaking down those mental barriers and turning it into something completely different and new. And tapping into that creative outlet allows you to generate new ideals. And once you have those new ideas, you can't go back to the person that you were before. Once you're able to define what your issue is, you're able to become a person that got past something that you couldn't initially get through. And again, for me, that was writing. And I found in my life, no event or memory was ever as bad or as horrible, or it was never something I couldn't get past, because I could always write it out. And I could always change my perspective as a result. And even when I was a kid, not really having any choices, because my mom eventually did get her life back together, But there was still the fighting. There was still, you know, the abuse that happens when you don't have necessarily that relationship that you want to have with that person. And when I couldn't say those things to my mother that I wanted to say, like, why were you on drugs? Why weren't you there for me? Why couldn't you be the person that I needed you to be? I wrote it down. I wrote everything down so I didn't feel like I didn't have an outlet to be a better person. Because that is what art does. Art changes you. Reading, writing, listening to music, acting. It changes your perspective and essentially changes your way of thinking and life. And so once you understand that, you can develop it. So what I would challenge you to do is to figure out what art aspect creates and generates a feeling inside of you. And when you find out what that is, I challenge you to work in that craft so that it can change your perspective. If it's writing, write a little bit every day. And it doesn't even have to be fluid or make sense. Just write, today wasn't the day that I wanted it to be. And then come back to it tomorrow and tack on, today wasn't the day that I wanted it to be, but I realized that tomorrow I could be and do something different. Because once you figure out how to change your perspective can't go back to the perspective you had the day before. Because you can't be stuck in a moment if you use that moment and create a different catalyst and outlet for it. So, I'm going to read the poem again, and hopefully you hear something different in it that you didn't hear before. It's called, again, The Opposite of Free. I get mad at me sometimes that I'm not the theme I want to be. I'm not pretty. I'm not perfect. I'm not skinny or new. I am old. I am worn. I am empty. I think about the life I want to lead and the things I want to share, of the impact I want to have, of the places that I dreamed, of the person that I want to be. But I don't, because I stay still. I stay silent. I am broke. I am broken. I get angry sometimes that people can't see the version of myself that I always long to be. The warrior, the goddess, the new, the fighter, the version of myself that I can make myself anew. But I laugh her off and I smile myself away. I seek deep into my subconscious, then I keep her dreams at bay. I live inside my head. I dream of what could be. If only I understood I was brave, that I could remake my reality. If only I understood I was everything. Not just mad, not just angry, not just broken. Thank you.
Wow.
That's all I got. Was there somebody else? It was just me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
That's good. Good evening. Somehow this evening.
Ci dovevo andare io perché sono cose.
Ah, sì, ho capito.
Così.
bloccata. Non capivo niente. Cosa sta vedendo video? No,
Hello, everybody. Allora, I am Laura Moschini, and I come from Rome, Italy. And I know that I have only 10 minutes, and that I have too many things to tell you. So, to be short, staying in time, will follow my presentation severely, so I cannot. My activities, just 2 words about my activities. My activities deal with social ethics and studies, research and teaching issues about gender point of, about gender equality and issues related. My interests also deal with the 70 UN Sustainable Development Goals and the social and economic progress. Well, my activities deal with ethics, and so cultivating, flourishing the humanity. Despite the many and powerful opponents, two of the principal exponents of the ethical thinking, Socrates and Seneca's Roman Stoics, were sentenced to death for their ideas and proposals. Ethics and liberal education is liberal in the sense that it's free from the chains of prejudice and conformism, have come down to us as shown by the studies of, for an example, Amartya Sen and Martha Nussbaum. Nussbaum takes up the Stoic ideas about the role of arts in liberal education to promote, especially through the narrative imagination, an active and responsible citizenship that allows the full development and flowering. Seneca spoke about flowering of the human capacity. No, the yellow paper, we cannot talk about it, unfortunately. So, education from creative thinking starts from childhood, as we know. Children begin to acquire moral skills when they begin to listen the stories and to tell or to imagine stories. Literature and the arts enrich and nourish their thought through stories, but not only through images, sculptures, and music, making creative and critical. So able to ask questions, to see other possibilities, to be proactive. This approach is very important because it will continue throughout the life, and the curious and participating child will always live inside within us and inside us. But the education. For this reason, in women's education there has always been a great deal of attention not to allow them to read books that take them away from their traditional tasks and roles, in fear that through the knowledge permitted by narrative imagination, they would like to change their condition and to become free. Anyway, speaking about the contemporary primacy of technology, as we can see in an historical period in which we are increasingly moving towards the primacy of technology, literary and artistic humanistic studies are considered secondary. Instead, for Nussbaum and for many others, school and university must increase the courses of humanities, literary and artistic subjects, because innovation requires flexible, open and creative minds. To be pragmatic, let's see some examples. Digital humanities, DCALT, HAIR, Art Humanities School, Images That Talk. So, by digitalizing what concerns the conservation, enhancement and dissemination of knowledge about our cultural, landscaping, artistic, linguistic and popular traditions, heritage, many opportunities can be realized in regards of social progress as well as of work and income. At the same time, it also increases personal satisfaction due to having brought culture into every home, both central and remote, and to people who may not be able to move through new technologies. The Digital Humanities project regards the fact that today Internet is everywhere and everything is going to be digitalized. The Digital Humanities intend to promote humanities and arts as well as technological artworks through the digital technologies. This is an example I find very interesting and also beautiful that I found at Sydney Museum in the collection of Asian art. It represents flowers and lights, and they move, and then they meet, and it's really wonderful, but I cannot show to you, unfortunately. This is an example from the Sydney Museum about the education, children education. Children can play with colors and flowers. One project, an example of digital humanities project is the digitalization of the history of women's citizenship, in particular of the magazine Noi Donne. We Women is the translation in English. The magazine was born in 1944 towards the end of the Second World War, when the partisan groups fought against the fascists and the German army collaborating allied troops to the liberation of Italy. The Italian women gathered into the women's defense groups and fought not only as support, but also with weapons in their hand for the liberation of Italy. The first copies of the magazine were written clandestinely or on cyclosilide paper sheet and disseminated by all the possible means. You can understand. In them, in the numbers of Noi Donne, of the magazine, publicated online only recently, thanks to digitalization of the Women's Union in Italy, carried out by the Department of Humanities of University of Roma III, political ideas as well as personal problems are described by women who actively participate in the resistance without surrender to the fear of being arrested or tortured or killed, which unfortunately happen frequently. The digital archive is a way to spread culture, but in this case, also to restore visibility and value to the many women who, despite prejudice and stereotypes, have made together with men the history of Italian democracy. These are an example. Another project, just a minute. Another project is DICALTER, Digital Cultural Heritage Arts and Humanities School. It is an Italian project in which more than 60 institutions, universities, scholars, researchers, school teachers of all disciplines take part in eliminating scientific, cultural, and gender barriers, aiming to increase new cultural as well as job opportunities. It is a good practice to link technologies, cultural heritage, and gender equality, also in order to facilitate the gender equality in STHEAM. All we know STEM, but this is an acronym to say technologies and human and arts. This is the project. And crowd dreaming is another project by DICALTER that this year promotes the 4th edition of the competition for the schools crowd dreaming. Young people co-create digital culture. It is a project that involves students of all ages and stimulates them to observe the artistic production, the beauty that is present in every kind of place and landscape, and to work together using creative thinking and digital technologies to co-create, to create a new product. To do this, even a simple mobile phone or tablet may be useful. Through them, children were able to make stories about what interests them, interpreting it and sometimes amplifying it. The last experience about DICALTER is DICALTER together with Europeana. Europeana is the most relevant aggregator of European digital cultural content to ensure the implementation of the right of every citizen to be educated in the knowledge and responsible use of digital technology for the protection and enhancement of cultural heritage in places of culture. Now, this is just, there is a man who is explaining all the things, and it is for me a little bit problematic because we are talking about the gender barriers, and then to explain we use a man, only a man, and this is for me a little bit wrong. This is Anna Scarfi is an artist that intended to make the public aware of the fact that the women also use the streets and across them, not only men, with this installation. And with this, she intends to raise awareness of the women's daily work yesterday as today, remembering that in that place there was a canal where water flowed and stones to wash and rinse clothes. And that fortunately today a washing machine exists. And the last slide. This unfortunately, really unfortunately, the news is of yesterday or the day before. This is Milan, an important city in Italy, Milan Furniture Fair, and this is the first one represent the violence against women. The other represent an artistic manifestation of the chair, of a chair made by two women to reflect, just to reflect what we do and we think about it. And another reflection, if these were done to men in this position, women can sit on, so what would they say? I really would like to hear by them. So thank you very much, and
Thank you.
I think there are more than 50 slides. Okay.
Hi everyone, I think it's my session. It's only 5 minutes. It's an activity. I'm sure you are going to enjoy it. It's a kind of dance. Just stay here just for 5 minutes. I know it's like end of the day and just 5 minutes. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. I'll give you my pen drive for the video. I'll give you
Yes, so I'm coming out with the book in August. So no way. Oh, it was really nice. Yeah, this lovely.